You're constantly trying to gain trust. These small businesses, they have no time, no money, and no trust.
Welcome everyone, my name is Vishal Tekshanani and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Scott Sanderson, the founder of Octohub, a digital agency based in Calgary and Vancouver. Scott's going to share with me some of his lessons, experience and key learnings from being a digital agency owner for over 20 years. Scott, thank you for your time.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So Scott, what makes you excited about running a digital agency?
Yeah, I ran a traditional digital agency for years, over 20 years. We had 2 locations in Western Canada, Vancouver and Calgary. And one of the things that we really struggled with was the amount of smaller businesses that, like, emotionally and intellectually, we really wanted to help them. But they literally couldn't afford our services. You know, creating content, running ad campaigns, looking after SEO and backlinks and listings. All of these things were manual. And we had to turn these people away. You know, they didn't want to spend $15,000 building a website. They couldn't afford it. They'd already leveraged their house to get their business started. But they really needed help. They needed to get found. They needed awareness. They needed help. And we had to turn them away. It was almost like being a lawyer and thinking we should do some pro bono work so we feel good about ourselves. But in the end, we were business people. And we're going to work with medium and larger and enterprise type accounts because they can afford the bill. They can afford our services. And in the many years that we were down that path, we realized, well, the world is changing, right? And how the internet ecosystem is working is changing. And it's largely changed into data. And now the data about a business is in fact how the internet treats that business, the accuracy, the efficacy, right? Of understanding what it is that business truly does. Is it really there? Is it really open? And of course, we all know Google has become a very dominant player in deciding who gets picked. And so we started to realize that as software continued to evolve and as SaaS platforms continued to evolve, that the load on labor was being reduced to the point where maybe there's none at all. And if there's no labor and you're just a SaaS provider, that opens up the ability to work with all of these really small guys who just couldn't afford for 50% of their monthly budget to go to the labor portion. And so we really look at it and are very enthusiastic about educating this group that there's a SaaS play here. You have a fourth choice for the first time ever. You can now get software and computers to run a big part of your digital marketing. No touch, no consulting. And we're busy trying to boil the proverbial ocean of small and very small businesses saying, no, this is an education for you. If you do these things, you will be treated more favorably. And in all cases, we include a Google Ads campaign, a small one, like starting at $100, to prove to them that this is an effective and efficient advertising vehicle that can guarantee results to your business. They're used to paying. They used to pay the yellow pages, they used to pay the newspapers, they used to pay radio stations. They don't even know who to pay. And they can't figure out how to run ads. They can't figure out how the backlinks work. They can't figure SEO out. We try to give them a piece of software that says it just does it for you. And you can afford it. Start small, under $200, and let's go.
We'll come back to the education and kind of the digital services that you see opportunities for in a sec. But, we talked about challenges of owning a small and medium business. It's a very tough game. But you as a business owner as well, you've got your own set of challenges, agencies, figuring out sales, figuring out a sales process, getting the right people in place, etc. What's been the biggest challenge for you in running digital agencies for 20 plus years?
Yeah, I think there's 2. Right? Always there's a staff challenge. Hiring people and training them and getting them on board is very costly to do. And once you train them, you're a little bit risky because now they're kind of like, wow, okay, now that I have all this intellectual property, maybe I should just be doing this myself, right? So you're kind of seeding your own competitive landscape in the market. So that's one thing that it's kind of a little bit on the risk side. The second thing is that right now, you're constantly trying to gain trust. These small businesses, they have no time, no money, and no trust. And so that makes them ideal. So we're busy trying to say, here are all the barriers that have been removed to reduce risk. There's no contract, there's no setup. It's a monthly bill. You can turn it off anytime you want. You don't like it. We are a high degree of reporting and accountability, and we're trying to say, no, I know you've heard it 100 times. Hear it again. It's different. This is a different story. And I think that is our big hurdle, is trying to figure out how do you reach this unreachable, herd of cats that we call SMBs, and try to herd them together, educate them, and gain their trust.
Okay. I'd love to dig into that a bit deeper. So how do you herd them? The product proposition that sounds great, that needs to be there, but meeting that small business owner, convincing them about the value of digital marketing, what's the human connection or kind of the process you use to gain their trust? Yeah,
so we kind of look at it and wish it was a do-it-yourself market. Oh, this is a good idea. It's Dropbox, I'll just buy it, right? And we're not that interested in the product-led growth stuff because we run ads and that costs us money. And if you don't run the ads, nothing might occur. You might sit around and wait for 90 days for something to happen, and you have a high degree of churn. When you add ads to the campaigns, you minimize the churn, right? It's very sticky, and it's small dollars, like it's $100 to run an ad campaign. That's it, and that includes the ads. So we really try to educate them more in that regard, and it takes time. Like, you have to earn the trust, and that means, webinars, that means education parts, that means reaching them through partnerships. That means so we recently did a program over the summer in Canada where we hired all these students. So literally, can you create a student network where they know enough about what we don't sell websites, we don't sell social media content creation, we sell data management, right? And say, that's the low-hanging fruit, that's where we live. So we can train these students to say, look, you're never going to keep up with a computer who's going to talk to 50 other websites instantly, right? You just can't do it manually. No one can. Trust a computer to do it. And I think that as small businesses get a little more used to using SaaS, like, we don't use, a bookkeeper, we use QuickBooks, and you're seeing more and more of it, all these Bamboo, all kinds of things where small businesses are adopting SaaS platforms to solve problems that they used to rely on labor for. And I think digital marketing, the part that we do, is one of them. We'll probably never be in the content providing services because that's people, right? And we're in the no people business. So we try to educate them, we try to help them, we try to give them trials, and we sort of put this little guidance counselor as a student, there to support them. So it's kind of like not do it yourself, although we'd love that to happen. It's kind of like do it yourself, and there's someone who will assist you as you need it. But it's not a bona fide digital marketing specialist or consultant. It's a kid, it's a student. And so we kind of feel a little bit like we're helping them, and we're helping them because we can keep the costs down, which allows more money to go into what we believe drives the most traffic, which is in fact the ad campaign.
Let's talk about your sales process. One of the challenges agencies, new and even in the mid-market space, have is building a profitable, predictable, repeatable sales process so that they can scale and just make that money on a reliable basis. You've got 25 to 30 staff, you mentioned. What tips could you provide in creating a process that works?
Yeah, it is about, so our funnel looks like this. We call them a suspect, and that means we've somehow got them into our database mapped to a student's territory, all in the platform. And that suspect means we think there's a business there because we found it in Google My Business, or we found it in whatever Google has changed it to, Google Business Listings now. So we think it's a real business, and we found a contact email, we found a phone number, and we added it and we created this record, right? And now we want to go to that business and say, if you're not managing your digital presence, right, you may be being penalized by the ecosystem, meaning somebody else is getting traffic that could be going to you. Right? You're a pizza shop, you're not showing up, right, in the first page, but your competitors are, they're doing something you are not. Would you like to see a report that will articulate and give you a roadmap? This is the snapshot report. And our first outreach is, would you like this report? It's normally X and we'll give it to you for Y, whatever promotion we're running at that time. And that really starts the engagement. So If they open something, we know they're real. We move them to what we call a prospect from a suspect. And then if they engage, I'd like a report, right? Now they're an engaged prospect. And we have automations that include email and tasks around each of those steps. And they just keep moving through the automation until we get them to what we would call an opportunity, where they're saying, I think I do want to try and fix this. What are my next steps? And then we try to onboard them from there. Again, less people, more, it's a curated process. You get this email that says, connect to Google My Business. Here's how you do it. You get this email that says, connect to Facebook. Here's how you do it. You get this email that says, here's how to enhance your listing. Are you in the right business category? Do you have your office hours in there? Bite-sized things that I always look at it and say, every action that you ask me to do as a business owner, you better make sure I can do it while I'm driving my car, getting your email on a cell phone. Is your call to action that small and that easy that you could do it while I'm driving? And that's kind of how we try to benchmark, could you do this while you're driving? Well, yeah, you could, because we're not trying to say, log in and do these 30 things. It's log in and do this one thing, right? And that's kind of how we try to onboard them. And that's our entire process. Moving them through these stages and trying to re-engage them and earn their trust along the way.
It sounds robust. Sounds like it's been refined over a period of 20 years, which is amazing. I want to go to an even higher level, and one of the struggles agency owners have is, where do I even find clients, especially for new people? How do I find my first client? We had an interview with Chris Montgomery just previously, and his advice was, get your boots on the ground, go start meeting people.
Right.
How do you get people at the top of the funnel to be able to have them as suspects and prospects and engaged prospects?
I think you'll find, if you're dealing with the type of audience that we're trying to deal with, the gatekeeper thing is way different. If I own the pizza shop and I put an order into the info@ email, like, that guy sees it, right? So if we can grab the info@ email, like, we don't do cold calls. We do, you can sit in your PJs in front of your computer, be on Google My Business and find prospects all day long. Because they're, restaurants near me. Well, there's 50 of them. Okay, go quickly check them out. What are they doing anything right or wrong? Are they, you can see, it's all there. The roadmap is right there in front of you. It's just about having the process once you've validated that they're real, and then figuring out, and we work on 7% engagement to conversion numbers, not like 30 or 40 or 50, right? Because we don't know if they're real. We know they're real according to Google, which doesn't mean they're real. And so it's really about, can we get their interest? But I think finding them is easy. It's manual, but it's easy. You can sit there and in 5 minutes, you can add 2 or 3 prospects just off of Google My Business and hooking it and doing the search directly through the platform.
Okay. It sounds like you're leveraging technology a lot to find those leads.
It's all about technology replacing labor, right? Because that means you can keep the costs down, and that means you can grow the audience.
Okay. Great segue into the next question, costs. Agency owners today, and lots of business owners today, worried about inflation, worried about a potential recession. Hope it doesn't happen, but it is a forecast by the economists. In that environment, how do you manage to keep your costs on a sustainable footing so that you're making money, you're able to pay staff, you're able to provide services? What's the key in maintaining a good margin in an environment like this?
Well, I think part of it is managing expenses, right? So we are long past the day where you need to have the fancy office to, to earn that trust with that customer. If you're going after a different audience, medium-sized, enterprise-sized clients, you probably need to continue to invest in all that stuff. Lease, rent, upkeep, somebody at the front who's a professional greeter. We don't do any of that. Like, this is a virtual business. Everybody is, I don't even know where half these people live. Nova Scotia. I mean, they're going to school and they're doing this as a side hustle, right? And so it's really about being able to see into what's happening from a central hub. And the platform provides that. Dashboards showing you who's moving people through their opportunity funnel, who's adding accounts, what's happening with the engagement levels on these emails. And so I think even when you look at it from a CRM perspective, it's doing all the heavy lifting, and you can look into it from afar. You can manage it from if it wasn't a hurricane, you could go to Puerto Rico and manage it there, right? Because it's all happening in the internet. It's all happening in the ether. And I think those are some really significant costs when you are a smaller, medium-sized agency. Spending $5,000 a month on rent is a significant part of your overall operating expense. That doesn't happen anymore for us. So that's a big part. Software, automation, hoteling, working remotely, all of those things have come into a world where you can manage the expense side of this business. And then it's just about how much better can you get at, making that funnel work better.
Last question from me, Scott. Let's think about the agency owner who's new to this game, early in this game. What are 2 to 3 golden nuggets you could give them in terms of helping them find success throughout their journey?
I would describe it like this in a bit of an anecdotal story. When I owned an agency, the worst day of the week was Friday. And my agency was built on an 80-20 principle. 80% of my profit came out of 20% of my customers. So because I was over-indexing in larger businesses, they always let you go on a Friday afternoon because they were hoping to get your voicemail, right? And it happens all the time. There's so much relying on that relationship that you're really not in control of. I mean, they decide they want to use another agency just because they want to change. And if you don't build out in today's world a really solid, broad base and not only look after these big guys, I think you have a much more sustainable business and a higher survivability rate, and you might even like Fridays again. So I think it's about going after a bunch of smaller guys, but making sure you can be profitable doing it to backfill the risk of your bigger guys. It's no longer a world of 5 or 6 accounts. It's 50 or 60 accounts, or 500 or 600 accounts is even better. And I think that will allow any agency to go out there and say, it's not about this, it's about that. You build that pyramid and those things rarely fall over, as we've noticed in Egypt.
Scott, thank you so much for your insights and for coming in today. I hope you enjoyed that interview. If you'd like to see more insights and interviews like those with Scott, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and have a great day.